Welcome my little pork chops. So today I wanted to talk about slow motion on the Sony ZV-1. Now, I've talked about this camera for quite some time now. I think it's amazing. It's the perfect pocket camera, but it also has a lot of interesting benefits that most cameras don't have, like amazing slow motion. Now, slow motion, in order to get like really crisp image quality from slow motion, it really depends on the light setting. So for example, this thing can shoot 1080p and 480 frames per second, and then you can also bump it up to 960 frames per second. That's like what 1000 frames per second, which is amazing. For a camera this small at that price range, most smartphones, most cameras can't do it. My Sony A7C, it can't do it. So that's really amazing. Now, I used to own, actually I still own it, like a compact smartphone called the Sony Z1 or something, like the Xperia Z1 or 2 compact. It was amazing because it actually had the 960 frames per second, but the image quality wasn't very good. With this thing, the image quality is outstanding. And I wanted to just run it up like what I prefer to use, what I like to shoot in. So for better image quality, I prefer to shoot in 480 frames per second. 960 is good. It gets a bit more cropped in, but if you have good lighting, you can get some pretty nice shots too. And especially if you're just sharing on social media, on YouTube and stuff like that, I think that it works. It's not gorgeous 4K image quality. It's just, it's 1080p. It's a lot better, at least, than say something from like a smartphone that shoots 240 frames per second. So personally, I think the image quality is outstanding. But in order to get, just a higher level of image quality, I go for 480 frames per second. I just think it looks a lot better, a lot smoother. Smoother, maybe not. That will be the 960 frames per second. But a lot of light, it's a necessity. It's a must. Like, I'm not talking about just getting a studio lamp. Preferably, you should shoot outside, at least in daylight. That's when you get the best image quality. And I've been playing around with this for a couple of weeks now, and it's just a lot of fun. There's something about slow motion, about capturing very boring moments in time, like slowed down. It's just something magical about it, and you can make some really interesting videos, like music videos or stuff like that. I don't know if you do music production or something like that, but for my money's worth, I think the slow motion capabilities of the Sony ZV-1 are pretty outstanding. And so I'm a huge sucker for it. One more thing that I would like to mention about settings is that you can sort of select if you want to have longer duration or higher quality but shorter duration. Then I would definitely go for higher quality, shorter duration. And the second setting that I always use is that when I hit the shutter button, I do it to end the clip. So for example, it will be like in the standby mode where you can you're not filming, but you're sort of trying to capture a moment. And when you've caught it, then you press the record button and it will capture the last 2 or 3 seconds of whatever you were pointing at. And I think that's a really good setting. I always use that setting. I prefer it. You can also do things very differently. Like, that's kind of amazing, actually, the kind of settings that you can play around with on this camera. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, that's personally what I use. So yeah, when it comes to slow motion on the ZV-1, it's a no-brainer. It's fantastic. I really recommend it for people who like slow motion. This is pretty much the best consumer slow motion camera out there on the market. I think it's amazing. There are some smartphones that can also record in high frame rates, but the image quality, then we're talking sensor size. This has a 1-inch sensor. Most smartphones don't have that, even if some claim that they do. And so the bigger the sensor, the better low light quality. And it's also about the processing. So for example, even on the iPhone, even when I shoot in 1080p, 240 frames per second, The image quality, it's okay, but it looks kind of rough. It sort of feels like they only cropped in like at the center and then just upscaled it. And they do the same thing on the ZV-1, but not as much, or they just have a better algorithm or something to handle that flow, but it just looks fantastic. So yeah, that's all I have for today. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.